What's going on here is much more complex than that.
Can we skip this? Like, hit the skip button or something?
Oh, you don't want to skip this.
Yes, we do.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my South Park The Stick of Truth hardcore walkthrough. We're about to start the mission Nonconformist. This has 2 phases to it and it's interrupted by a PTA mission. But this is the main brunt of it, and it generally involves recruiting the goth kids. But to do so, you have to buy some goth equipment, you have to buy some cigarettes, you have to buy coffee, and you have to do a side quest involving a conformist sign. But you'll see it later on, and as soon as you hit the door, Cartman comes in the room, tells you what you need to do, and he gives you your mission. And I tried to break the sequencing here, because I tried to buy everything before I went to the goth kids to save myself a trip. But like with a lot of games and with scripted sequences, you don't actually trigger those items to appear until you talk to the goth kids, which I really disagree with personally, and, mechanically, but what can we do? So, what you want to do is you want to hit one of the fast travel points to go to the school, you want to talk to the goth kids, and then you want to immediately travel to the You Store It fast travel sign, because that's going to enable us to buy a load of stuff off a homeless man, which is probably not a good idea, and then we can go to Tweaks, and then we can go to Jimbo's to get the smokes, and then the mission's pretty much done. But there's the fast travel. I wish the fast travel was that quick in the game, but once again, editing applies. And you'll hear the goths before you see them. And that was the goth cutscene, which I just removed, and now we're doing Nonconformist. But I've been watching a ton of Dark Souls 2 content, and I know I shouldn't, because it'll spoil parts of the game for me, but I've never really been too bothered about spoilers. And for what I've seen so far, a lot of the things, like the traps and the setups, have been really obvious. Like, the only real thing that it's spoiling for me personally is the surprise that you get when you enter a fog and it's a boss. That's literally the only surprise, and, it doesn't really bother me. Like, the game isn't even out in America yet. There's still 3 days left until it's out in America, and there's already, quite a lot of content up there from it being leaked on torrent sites or from people getting it early. Like, a guy streamed a ton of it before it got took off of Twitch, and the guy on YouTube's already, coded it all, banged it on his channel. Oh, by the way, guys, there's a fight there, and they say it's futile to do it. So I did it because that's what I'm like, and I beat them, and even though you beat them, they still knock you out and take you away and tell you that it was futile. So to speed this up a little bit, I just accepted it, and it takes you to the elf's kingdom, and then you get to talk to Kyle. And then from this point, what the game's going to do is it's going to give you the option to recruit the goth kids, and then recruit them for either the elves or the human faction, and you're going to have to choose. So, on my first playthrough, I chose Cartman, and there's an achievement for doing so. So on this one, I chose Kyle. There's no real stipulations. The next sequence afterwards is pretty much identical both ways. There's just a little bit of differing dialogue and a different boss that you fight. So it's all pretty standard stuff. But you'll notice I just purchased the monk gloves, which are a pair of gloves that increase throwing damage, because we're going to be using throwing items. But then I forget that you have to be level 10 to use them, so I can't put them on, which is a bit of a dumb mistake, but at least I've got them for later. Oh, and another thing, guys, you might be wondering why I'm leaving the menus in, because it's normally the type of stuff that I remove. Because this guide is quite short, and because this is an RPG, I decided to show you my progression and show you the things that I was equipping and what I was changing, just in case you literally want to emulate everything I do. And you'd be surprised how many people do that. I know I was. But now that we've got everything equipped, we're going to be warping to the Shitty Walk, or the Tower of Peace, and then we're going to be going over to Skeeter's bar, where Jimbo's Guns is. And next to it is it the 5th graders? Or the 4th graders? I can't remember what year these guys are. They're the year above the South Park guys, and they bully them. And then once you beat these up, you get smokes. And the cool thing about being, with both factions for this point, is you can have Stan and people from their faction in your party, like Jimmy. And Stan is really good because Stan has got huge life. You'll notice his life is higher than mine. And later on in the game, Stan is a tank, an absolute tank for taking damage. My only criticism of him is he's only really good at hitting one enemy. You know, he's kind of like a focused enemy kind of guy. Unless they're in a line like that, which works really well. But he's got nothing that hits everybody, and that's probably the only downsides to using him. But look at him, he just sponges it. It's so powerful. But there's only one smoking scoundrel left, and he's about to get every status effect he could possibly need, and then finished off by Stan's blade. So something I haven't mentioned, but with the buddy system, when you swap a buddy, it wastes a turn. For the most, it's one of the only ways to actually not have you do anything on their turn. Something weird as well that I've noticed. When you block 2 attacks in a row, you generally get to counterattack. When you block them twice in a row as a buddy, they don't. You know, there's a couple of holes where the buddies are concerned. Like, you don't get to change your friend's equipment or pick their abilities or anything along those lines, which maybe there's a tab I've missed and you're able to do all of those things, but from what I've seen, you can't touch them at all, and I think that's a shame. Because it would have definitely added an extra layer of depth, and it would have just made it a bit more fun to customize stuff. And there's a lot of shit to customize. Like, you can do so much frivolous stuff, but it's the important stuff they seem to have forgotten a little bit about, which is kind of funny. But you'll notice I'm putting on the goth gear. If you don't do this, the goths will not talk to you. And now that we've got everything, we need to go back to them. And then after that, they're going to give us the Nonconformist sign. And then you have to go back over to the town hall. And you have to go there when the entire town is in there and put the sign on the table. But before we can do that, Randy wants us to do something for him, which is going to be in the next video, which is entitled The Problems at the PTA, I believe. But we're getting on there, guys. This is video 7, and there's only 18 videos of the guide, and some of them are very short. You'll notice that there's already been one that was 20 minutes long, and then there's been ones that are like 3 minutes long, and it's just because some of the missions are really strangely interspersed with quick ones and long ones. It's got peaks and valleys, especially if you're skipping cutscenes. With the cutscenes in, this game is significantly longer. But once again, this is a walkthrough, not a let's play, so there should never really be cutscenes, because you don't need help in them. But here we are anyhow, guys, and this is the end of the video. So you're probably going to see me fart on some people because I do that. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.